The wind howls through the pine trees like a chorus of ghosts. A whip cracks in the distance. Somewhere in the dark, feet pound against the wet ground 3 sets, steady, desperate, unbroken. Breathless voices whisper through the rain. Keep running, don't look back. Narrator, 3 brothers. One night, 400 miles between them and freedom. In 1856, in the deep belly of Mississippi, 3 enslaved men vanished into the night, hunted like beasts, praying for one chance at a life that was theirs by birthright. This is not a tale of myth or legend. It is history raw, filthy, and unforgettable. A story of blood, faith, and a bond that not even iron could destroy. They were born on the Cotton Hills plantation, where the soil was red and the cruelty ran deeper than the roots of the trees. Their names were Elias, Isaac, and Samuel, brothers bound not only by blood but by a promise whispered beside their mother's grave. We will not die here. Elias, the eldest, carried the weight of protector. His hands were scarred from the lash, his voice calm in chaos. Isaac, the middle brother, had a mind sharper than any overseer's whip. He remembered every story he ever heard about the North, about men who walked free. Samuel, only 17, had eyes that burned with defiance, too young to fear, too old to believe in mercy. Their master, Judge Harlan Pierce, ruled the plantation with holy fury. He called himself God's chosen, preaching righteousness on Sunday and delivering punishment on Monday. Those who tried to escape were made examples, torn apart by dogs or displayed in chains before the fields. The message was clear: freedom is death. But some dreams do not listen to warnings. The brothers whispered of faraway lands, Ohio, Canada, freedom. They spoke in code, in hymns and fragments of scripture. The Lord will make a way, their mother used to say. And when the moon rose full one August night, they believed maybe he already had. The storm rolled in like divine cover, thunder hiding their footsteps, rain erasing their scent. Elias carried a small sack of dried cornmeal. Isaac held a handmade compass carved from wood, and Samuel carried only a fragment of their mother's scarf. When the first flash of lightning split the sky, they were gone, leaving behind their chains and stepping into the unknown. Freedom was not a direction, it was a heartbeat. Behind them, rage. The master awoke to find 3 of his strongest men missing. Within hours, riders were dispatched, dogs unleashed, posters nailed to trees. Wanted 3 Negro runaways, alive if possible. The reward was enough to feed a family for a year. The hunt had begun. The brothers moved like shadows through the swamps, sleeping in hollow trees, drinking rainwater, eating roots. The world itself seemed to fight them: snakes, thorns, hunger, fever. But fear was their truest enemy. One bark of a dog could end everything. One misstep in the mud could leave tracks that led to their deaths. Freedom was not a dream, the narrator whispers. It was a crime. By the 5th night, they reached the Yazoo River. Crossing it meant leaving Mississippi, but it also meant leaving everything they knew. They tied logs together with vines, pushing silently through the current as rain pelted their backs. Halfway across, Samuel slipped. The river swallowed him whole, dragging him beneath the surface. Elias dove in after him, thrashing against the current, shouting his brother's name. By some miracle, he pulled him to the far bank, coughing and gasping. "Mama didn't raise us to die in chains," Elias whispered. They pressed onward, their bodies battered, their faith unshaken. For days they hid in cornfields and barns, following the North Star whenever the clouds broke. They passed through ghost towns and plantations where the air still smelled of blood. At night, they heard hounds in the distance and prayed. At mile 100, a Quaker farmer gave them bread. At mile 200, a free black man offered a place to rest in his barn. Every act of kindness came with a risk, a noose for anyone caught helping runaways. But compassion, like freedom, has a way of defying laws. At mile 300, tragedy waited. The brothers, exhausted and starving, stumbled upon a small homestead in Kentucky. A white farmer met them with a candle and a smile. He promised food, shelter, safety. But trust is a dangerous thing for those born enslaved. That night, while they slept, the farmer sent word to the patrols. Before dawn, the sound of horses filled the air. Dogs snarled, guns cocked. Isaac woke first, shouting for his brothers to run. Bullets tore through the walls as they fled into the forest. Samuel fell, a scream cut short by the blow of a rifle. Elias turned back, but Isaac dragged him onward. "He's gone." Isaac choked. "He's gone, and if we stop, we die." 2. The forest swallowed their cries. Behind them, Samuel's voice faded into the dark. For days, they moved in silence, carrying guilt heavier than chains. They swore that if they ever reached freedom, they would come back for him. But the world was crueler than their promises. 2 weeks later, barefoot and starving, Elias and Isaac crossed the Ohio River. The current was bitter cold, but on the other side, freedom. They collapsed in the mud, unable to believe they had made it. For the first time in their lives, no one owned their bodies. They could speak their names without fear. Elias said quietly, "We made it, little brother. We made it for you." They took new names in Cincinnati, working in the docks, blending into the shadows of a free state that was still not free of hate. At night, they joined abolitionists, helping others escape, guiding men and women through the same paths that nearly killed them. But peace was not freedom, and freedom was not peace. Every night, Elias dreamed of Samuel. Sometimes he heard his laughter, other times his scream, the one that echoed through the forest when the guns went off. It was the sound that haunted his sleep and woke him sweating before dawn. Freedom had not erased his brother's ghost, it had only given it more room to follow him. 2 years passed. By 1858, Elias and Isaac had built a quiet life in Cincinnati. They worked in the shipyards by day, their hands calloused from hauling crates instead of picking cotton. At night, they met with conductors of the Underground Railroad, men and women who risked everything to free others. They helped hide runaways in cellars, led families through swamps and riverbanks, whispered directions that pointed to the North Star. Each time they watched someone disappear into the distance, they wondered if Samuel might be out there too. Then came the rumor. A preacher traveling from Kentucky told of a young black man, scarred, strong, and quiet, who had escaped again after being captured years before. "They say he vanished into the hills," the preacher said, "and no man ever caught him again." Hope is a dangerous thing, but it can also be the only thing keeping you alive. Isaac became obsessed. He spent nights tracing routes on a map, marking every town, every hiding place. "If he's alive," he said, "I'll find him." Elias knew it was madness, but how do you kill hope when it wears your brother's face? In the spring of 1858, Isaac left Cincinnati, disguised as a sailor aboard a riverboat. His plan: to move south, posing as free labor, searching plantations and ports for any sign of Samuel. He carried forged papers, a pistol, and their mother's scarf, the same one Samuel had carried the night they ran. For months, nothing. Letters stopped coming. Then, one winter evening, Elias received a message delivered by a stranger, a torn page from Isaac's notebook, written in his brother's handwriting. Were only 5 words. He ran again. Still running. Elias never saw Isaac again. Some said he made it back north. Others whispered he was caught, sent to a prison camp, maybe killed. But to Elias, it didn't matter. What mattered was that Samuel was out there, still running, still free in some way that no law could catch. The story of the 3 brothers spread quietly through the Underground Railroad. Conductors told it in hushed tones to frighten runaways. Mothers whispered it to their sons before they fled into the woods. "Remember the 3 who ran 400 miles, they said. If they made it, so can you." Years later, when the Civil War began, Elias was too old to fight, but he helped others escape across the lines to Union camps. When the war finally ended, and the word freedom was spoken aloud, he walked to the Ohio River, one last time, the same water that had carried him from hell to salvation. He knelt by the edge, let the current touch his hands, and said softly, "We made it, all of us." But history does not remember men like Elias, Isaac, and Samuel. It remembers generals, politicians, and battles. The names of those who ran, who bled, who dared to believe they could outrun an empire, those names fade. But their footsteps remain, etched into the land like scars that never heal. Their escape 400 miles through mud, blood, and faith became legend. Abolitionists began calling it the Brothers' Road, a secret path used by countless others who sought to follow in their footsteps. Some say traces of that path still exist, hidden beneath forests and highways, where the earth remembers every mile. Years later, newspapers uncovered fragments of their story, old runaway notices, faded diaries, testimonies from freedmen. Historians pieced together their trail, realizing what their journey represented, not just escape, but defiance, not just survival, but victory. Their story became a symbol of the human spirit, that unbreakable will that refuses to kneel, even when the world builds a cage around it. Their footsteps may have faded, the narrator says, voice low, but their courage still echoes across generations, because every mile they ran was a mile toward us, toward every freedom, every right, every breath we take without chains. And when you stand beneath the open sky, remember, freedom was not given. It was earned mile by mile, night by night, by people whose names history tried to bury. The wind returns, the forest hums. The sound of distant footsteps rises, steady and strong. They said 3 enslaved brothers could never escape 400 miles of chains, the narrator whispers. But history isn't written by those who said never. It's written by those who ran. Elias, Isaac, Samuel. Their names deserve to be remembered not as slaves, but as men who outran an empire. This is not just their story, the voice continues. It's our inheritance. Proof that even in the darkest night, freedom has a heartbeat. The screen fades to dawn over a calm river. The sun breaks, golden and silent. Because freedom, the narrator says, as the light spreads, always finds its way home.